why what we do is important, not only locally but also nationally. I'll talk a little bit about some of our signature programs, and then maybe where we're headed just a bit. And then I want to try to do that in about 20 minutes so that I can get to your questions and have a discussion with you to talk about anything that you'd like to talk about. I didn't.
Go ahead and click on this first.
Okay. Very good. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Let me give you a little bit of data. We're a relatively small graduate college of education. It's a professional college. We have 6 programs: school psychology, counseling psychology, special education, teaching and learning, and technology, which is what people generally associate with a college of education, training teachers. But that's just really a small part of what we do. We have an educational leadership program that prepares and trains principals and superintendents. Many of the superintendents and principals here in the Lehigh Valley are our graduates. And we have a comparative and international education program. Each program has MA and doctoral level offerings. Here's the numbers in front of you on the slide. We're relatively lean. We have 28 faculty members, 8 professors of practice. Professors of practice are essentially clinical faculty. We have only 17 staff members that help us. We have around 325 master's students, 155 doctoral students, and 83 continuing education students. In addition to that, we've been moving selectively into online and distance programs. We're being very careful about how we do that because we don't want to lose our brand or lose our ability to create really quality programs that rely on very good faculty who have contact with our students. But we're moving into education as a second language as a distance education program. We've got an educational technology certificate that's very interesting. And we are just getting ready to start a program to train board certified behavior analysts, those who can work using applied behavior analysis for kids with autism and related kinds of disorders on the autism spectrum. In addition to that, we've got Centennial School for children with the most severe emotional and behavioral problems. They're located up by the airport right now. We're trying to get them back on campus. That should happen in the next few years, but they've been affiliated with our College of Education for a number of decades now, and it's a very good school. I'll talk just a bit more about it a little bit later, hopefully. We're different. We're different than the rest of the Lehigh campus. We're different than the rest of the colleges on campus. There are 3 other colleges. All of those colleges have both undergraduate and graduate offerings. We are graduate only. In addition to that, we're a little different from the standpoint of tuition. I get to set my own tuition, and I set it at about half of what the tuition is in the other colleges on campus. My folks are not folks who end up getting rich. They work as teachers, as school psychologists, as counselors. And so I've decided that I don't want to charge them a whole bunch of money to get their degree. So I try to stay competitive that way. The final thing about us is that we're not located down on main campus, down the hill. We're located up on the mountaintop in the old Bethlehem Steel Research Facility. If you're down at the bottom of the hill or somewhere out in the Lehigh Valley and you look up on the mountaintop and you see that tower sticking up, that's where we're located. So we're up there. So what do professional graduate colleges do? One of the main things that we're interested in, and one of the charges that we have as a graduate college is the creation of knowledge. We are research to practice. We deliver to constituents, and our constituents are schools, our children, our parents, our businesses, folks like that. We are in the business of doing the kind of research that will change how kids are educated. We are We are dedicated to following data without fear or favor. We try to manipulate variables instead of manipulating people. And we feel like that is one of the major strengths and maybe one of the only places left where you can count on folks who are going to give you an unbiased notion of what the data are telling them. So we try to innovate based on the best available information. And then we try to take that out into the real world and implement it with kids, with schools, with community organizations, folks like that. We also train practitioners, psychologists. We work with we train administrators. We train educators. We train researchers in our doctoral programs. And those folks go to universities. They go to think tanks, and they end up in hospital and medical settings working in clinical situations and in other places. We have folks who are working down at Children's Hospital of Pennsylvania. We have people developing programs with Lehigh Valley Health Network in some of the hospitals there. So we do a lot of those things too. We also train folks who become higher education faculty and end up teaching other kids. And finally, we have a really strong international education program. I have had in my college for a number of years my own Office of International Programs. And we have been in, since I've been here about 8.5 years now, we've been in over 20 countries doing a variety of different kinds of things. We participate and collaborate with others. We work with business, we work with community partners, as you can see there. We have a number of international collaborations, recently in Cambodia, in India, in Tübingen, Germany, in Prague, the Czech Republic, in South Africa, a number of other places. So we have international collaborations, and when we must, we also collaborate with politicians, although we try to stay away from them as much as we can. So let me tell you a few things that we do really well. We have a group of faculty, 6 faculty, across several of our College of Education programs and disciplines who are engaged in work from birth to age 3. It is a signature program that we have been developing for a while. We have very strong faculty in that area. They are all working together to assess risk, to develop interventions, to measure the effects of those interventions. And those effects are both behavioral kinds of effects and biological effects. They've got funding from the Department of Education, from National Science Foundation, and from the National Institute of Health. And we've gotten a couple gifts that are helping us also. They're working with 4 or 5 other universities to collaborate and across a number of different disciplines. In addition to that, they're opening a clinical classroom down in South Bethlehem at Donegan Elementary School. Let me give you an example. I've got Susan Woodhouse here, and I'll play this. It doesn't last very long, but I want you to hear about some of the things our folks are doing. So let me see if I can get this right. Okay. Okay, thank you.
My most recent project is called CARE, which stands for Caregiving, Attachment, and Regulation of Emotion. I'm really interested in regulation of emotion because it's such an important basic building block of mental health down the road and also for school readiness. If you can't regulate your emotions, you're not going to be able to be sitting in class listening and having a good relationship with your teacher and paying attention. You're not going to be able to manage the normal feelings that come up in life, and it's going to be hard to maintain your mental health. So my research really focuses on what are the most important predictors, what are the most important things that are going to make a difference in a child's regulation of their emotion. And there's really important research where people tracked babies from babyhood into adulthood, showing that if you can have a good relationship, a secure relationship with your parents when you're a baby, that has huge implications for prevention of mental health problems down the road, even into adulthood, not just in childhood, but also adulthood. So my research focuses on what are those things that parents or other caregivers do that make the most difference for infants' regulation of emotion. And in order to do that, we look at a number of those physiological building blocks of emotion regulation. So we look at cortisol. Cortisol is a stress hormone that shows us how a baby is responding with stress and how that baby recovers from stress. We also look at respiratory sinus arrhythmia, which is an indicator of how the parasympathetic nervous system is responding to stress. So the parasympathetic nervous system is important because that's the part of the nervous system that calms us down. And having a flexible PNS activation is good because you need to be able to relax when you need to relax, but then also become alert and focus your attention when there's a challenge that you need to face. So we really care about how that system is developing in babies because it lets us see how the relationship is affecting that system. And so what we look at is what are parents doing that make the most difference, and some very interesting results are beginning to emerge from the research. One of the key findings that we had is that if mothers or other caregivers hold their baby chest to chest when the baby cries, that makes a really big difference. Another important finding that we had is that when the baby's not in distress, that the mom is doing something that we call calm regulated connectedness. So a lot of times parents get the message that they should be working hard to connect with their baby. But if parents become overly anxious about that and are just trying really hard, it actually dysregulates the baby. So being able to maintain a calm connectedness with the baby is really helpful.
Cool stuff, right? We think it is. And Susan came to us a few years ago, and she has funding from NIH to do a lot of that work. So we're doing a lot of really incredible things there. And one of the things that's really changing for us is that our models in education, and in fact in medicine, have always been reactive. We've always reacted rather than being proactive. We've used a disease model. We wait for something to go wrong and then we try to fix it. That model's changing, both in education and in medicine, and we're part of what's changing it. What we're finding out is that if you can do some preventative kinds of things, and we have better assessments that predict more accurately when somebody is going to have some problems. If we can predict early, we end up paying a whole lot less to intervene early than we end up paying later. So it's almost a pay now or pay a whole lot later kind of model. And it's kind of exciting. We're working with Lehigh Valley Health Network and some other folks to develop programs around that. And that early development group is right on the forefront of that. In addition to that, we do a lot of work in the area of at-risk and disabilities. We have autism research and training. We have a couple of the most well-known and skilled researchers and practitioners in the area of autism in our college who are doing a lot of work. One of those people is Lee Kern, who's the new center director of our Center for Promoting Research and Practice. We have George Dupal, who is doing incredible work with kids with attention deficit hyperactivity disorders. What he's showing with his work is that we don't always need psychostimulant medication to treat kids with ADHD, which is really incredible. Those medications are never sufficient, and they're sometimes not necessary. And he's showing that sometimes they're not necessary. We have a lot of work, as I said, being done with BERT for 3, and then we have a lot of strength in mental health, illness, emotional, and behavioral disorders. As I mentioned earlier, we're doing a lot in the area of international programs. We are developing a reputation as a group that is engaged in a lot of international assessment efforts. In Cambodia, we have a program in Bihar, India, to help improve students' outcomes, in particular young girls when they graduate and their outcomes in India. And we have a number of international education programs. We train counselors and educational leaders across 25 different American schools around the world. So we're up to that also. And we've had that Office of International Programs that's been in effect or in existence for over 20 years now. So that's what we do, and that's how we do it. That's only some of what we do, but I wanted to point out at least some of what our college is up to and how we go about doing it and how we view education. In terms of overall, our value or some of the highlights is first of all that we are the highest ranked college at Lehigh for the last 6 years. A lot of folks think that it's an engineering college, and the engineering college is, of course, a very large college at Lehigh, but as far as ranking is concerned, for U.S. News and World Report and other rankings, our college has been the highest ranked at Lehigh for the last 6 years. We're the only college to have participated in congressional hearings. Some of our folks have worked with politicians and congressional folks down in Washington to talk about the best way to work with kids with severe disabilities. We are the only college to have a #1 nationally ranked program or school psychology program. The #1 ranked Lehigh Scholar in medically related fields is in our college, and we are the only college to have multiple $1 million plus federal awards over the past 7 years or so. And that's coming from a fairly small college. We're talking about a college of 28 faculty and 8 professors of practice or clinical faculty. So we're very proud of what we've been able to do. We are in the business of trying to change lives and help kids. My faculty don't come to work every day thinking about things like school reform, about vouchers, about Betsy DeVos, about those kinds of things. We think about them, but they don't come to work thinking about those things. What they come to work thinking about is how do they create methods and models and the kind of research that's going to improve the lives of kids and help them to learn better. So that, in a nutshell, is what we're up to. And I'm going to go ahead and stop now so that you can ask questions and talk to me about what's going on. So we'll move to that now.
Excellent. So for those of you that are listening in, if you have questions, you can go ahead and start typing them in the chat box now. While some of you are formulating those questions, I'll start off with a question that I have for you. You mentioned your research to practice. What are some of the biggest changes that you have seen in education over, say, the last 5 years?
Over the last 5 years, 5 to 10 years, one of the things that's really changing is that even as society relies more on confirmation bias more and more every day. For example, what confirmation bias is that people start with some beliefs and then they go out looking for data to support those beliefs rather than the other way around. It seems like society's been heading that way politically. In my field and in education and in medicine also, it's been the opposite. We have increasingly rejected models that are not, that haven't received some empirical attention. We refuse to say you should use something unless there has been some research that suggests it will work. And if you don't do those kinds of things, then your reputation as a thought leader, your reputation as someone who can follow the data without fear is hurt, and you are no longer respected in the field. Let me give you just a little bit of an example. There's no Food and Drug Administration in education. In other words, if somebody can come along and find something that looks good and sounds good and they can sell it, then it can be used in schools. And that has happened any number of times. There are reading programs that have been implemented nationally for years and years that are just starting to be phased out because there's been no data suggesting that they're effective, but it's been used. It's been used for any number of reasons. First of all, because people were able to sell it. And secondly, because it made adults feel good rather than making kids learn good. And that was an issue. So the field is moving farther and farther away from those kinds of things and moving into stuff that really works and that has received some empirical attention. We like to think that we are at the forefront of that. And as one of the top 50 graduate colleges in the country, we are at the forefront of that.
Fantastic. Thank you.
Sure.
All right, we have a couple of questions rolling in. Ainsley Lamberton, an 07 grad, says, Dean Sasso, what is the best way for alumni to engage with the College of Education?
Well, Ainsley, I know Ainsley. The best way for alumni to engage with the College of Education is to get to know us a little bit better, is to know what we do, how we go about doing it. One of the issues that we have at Lehigh is because we are graduate. Most folks, most of our alumni, and most of the folks that stay connected with Lehigh University stay connected because of their undergraduate experience. That's just the way the world works. It doesn't just work that way at Lehigh, but it works that way across the country. So I think one of the best ways to stay connected is to find out what we do to help work with us. We have not had for the last few years an alumni group that works with it. I've been talking to folks about resurrecting our alumni group, and we will be doing that. So if you are interested in becoming active with us and working on some things that we think are really excited, that's one of the things that you can do. You can just contact me directly through my email. We can give that to them, right?
Definitely.
I think Ainsley already knows what my email is.
And we'll mention that towards the end of this talk, you will receive an email with the link to the recording after we're done here. We'll make sure we include some links within that email so that any alumni who are looking to get engaged, that you guys know where you can go in order to do that. Thanks for the question, Ainsley. So Bill Glasser, class of 84, asks, what sort of interactions does the College of Education have with the other three colleges at Lehigh?
Oh, that's a good question, Bill. One of the things that Lehigh has been involved in pretty extensively over the last, not quite decade, last 8 years or so, is that we are increasingly multidisciplinary in terms of our work and in terms of our research. We fully believe that most of the interesting questions across areas and within education are going to be answered by working across disciplines. The days of working just within your own discipline to answer questions and to find the best way forward are receding pretty quickly. One of the things that has pushed that along is that our Provost Farrell, over the last several years, created a program whereby we can hire groups of people who are from different disciplines, who are all interested in solving big questions and big problems, not only in education, but in engineering, in business, in the arts and sciences. But what we're finding out is that if you include people from a lot of different disciplines, a lot of different philosophical models, that you can create research and create answers to questions that are much more robust, much more effective than if you just work within a single discipline. So we've been working on that a lot. I've got folks who are working with across all the other three colleges and working pretty extensively across all of the other colleges. We have a health, medicine, and society group of folks who work across arts and sciences and business in our college to try to solve some of the health related problems and mental health as well as physical health within communities. We have a community-based researcher who's putting together those kinds of programs, and that more and more is what is happening. One final thing, and I know I'm just going on and on here, but one final thing is that our new president, John Simon, has come in and challenged us to create a fifth college at Lehigh, and that is a health sciences college or a college that's interested in those kinds of issues. We don't even know what that college is going to look like yet. The provost has put together a a task force to try to make some initial decisions about where we might go. We don't want to do what everybody else is doing. We also don't want to answer questions that might be relevant today. We want to try to predict what those questions might be in the future and move toward that as far as the college is concerned. That group of folks almost certainly are going to have dual appointments across any number of the other colleges. In addition to that, my expectation is that some of my folks will have appointments in that college, because we're thinking and we're hopeful that one of the emphasis areas for that health sciences college is going to be mental health, and that's what we do. That's what we do very well. Thanks for the question, Bill.
Great. Richard Inez has a question. Does the College of Education offer online learning for out-of-state educators, and is residency required?
We don't offer, yes and no. We offer some online programs for folks here that are domestic folks in our country, across counseling, psychology, and educational leadership. You can get that degree online, but you have to come to campus just a bit during the summer for those things. We don't feel that comfortable offering entire degrees online. We feel like part of what we do very well is that our faculty are really engaged with students, and we insist that students at least have some attention from our faculty and hear from our faculty, and our faculty want to get to know these students that we are moving toward a professional degree. It doesn't make sense to us to not know who these people are and to send them out without knowing. In addition to that, I think I mentioned earlier on, we offer certificates in the area of English as a second language, in the area of ed technology, and then the area of applied behavior analysis. These are folks who go out and provide training for kids on the autism spectrum. They offer probably the only, well, it's not probably only, it is the only therapy that's been shown to be effective with kids on the autism spectrum. And those folks are in high demand. We are going to be one of the primary folks who are training those folks. We're going to do a lot of it online, but we're also going to have the expectation that those folks will engage in an internship with us so that we can see that they are trained properly and that they can work effectively with individuals. So that's the way we're going about it, Richard.
Great. Deirdre Kriatek has a question. Can you talk more about the Centennial School and the work that the College of Education is doing with children and emotional and behavior issues?
Sure. Centennial School is a state-funded school, but it's affiliated with the College of Education. It's been affiliated with the College of Education since the 80s. It is currently one of the best schools of its type in the country. It is a self-contained day school for kids with the most severe emotional and behavioral kinds of problems, to include autism. The kids that end up at Centennial are kids that the public schools have not been able to serve well. They are too disruptive. They have problems that are too involved. The next stop for those kids, were it not for Centennial, would be a hospital setting or an institutional setting. And Centennial has been incredibly effective using principles of positive behavior support and other kinds of procedures to affect significant change for those kids. A lot of those kids end up going back to their regular school. In a lot of instances, these are the kids, remember, with the most severe kinds of problems. What we do with that school is we provide support for that school. That school provides support for our students. A lot of our students receive some of their training there. A lot of our students end up working there, both as teachers and school psychologists and counselors. Those students are always the first hired by the districts and by others because the training is so good. It has such a good reputation. So that's kind of what Centennial does. It does it very well, and it has a very good reputation, and we're proud to have it as part of what we do here.
Thank you. For those of you that are interested in learning more, we just popped a link in the chat box to the Centennial School there, so you can click on that now. We'll also include it in the email afterwards. We have another question that came in from Faith Drescher, class of 72. And she's asking, does the college have a stance or any research-based data on the value of public education as a philosophy and or a delivery system for educating all children?
I know what you're asking, Faith. Here's what we know. Here's what we know, and we know that school reform, there's a lot of heat and sometimes very little light. And I'm not here to engage in very much of that, although I will try to answer your question. Faith, if you want to talk more about this, I have some personal beliefs about that. And, we can set a time to meet down at Broadway Social and we'll have a cocktail and talk about it. And I'll tell you what I think. But I'll tell you a little bit what I think now. And that is that it's not a public-private kind of issue. It's not a private charter kind of issue. It's an issue of what goes on in that classroom. And whether or not there are procedures being used and teaching models and methods being used in that classroom and in that school that allow kids to learn in the best way possible. So it's not a question of whether or not they can get a better education in charters or public. It is a question of what goes on in charters and publics and privates. So there are good privates, there are good publics, and there are good charters, but there are also bad ones across all of those. Having said that, I will say that there's a really strong feeling within our college that, and a strong belief that there's a reason why we have public education in this country. And the reason for that is that it is designed to be the engine of our democracy. And what I mean by that is that it's designed to be something that allows any kid to say, sometime I can be president in my life if I would like to, or I can do anything that I want. Now, to the extent that it fulfills that promise, it's wonderful. To the extent that we fall down in that area, it is problematic. And we know where we fall down. We know where we fall down. What are we? We're 23rd in the world in terms of our educational system. One thing that most people don't talk about when they're talking about school reform and how awful we are is that even back when public schools were thought to be doing very, very well, we were still kind of in the mid-20s. We've always been kind of in the mid-20s. And the reason for that is that we try to educate every kid, unlike some countries that don't try to educate every kid, or unlike some countries that don't have the diversity that we have. For example, everybody talks about the Scandinavian countries and how wonderful their education systems are, and their kids do very well. One of the reasons they do very well is because they don't have very much diversity in their countries. Everybody talks about the Chinese system and whether we should be using their system to educate our kids, because the data that's coming out of China is that everybody is doing wonderfully. One of the things that we know about the data that's sent to us from China is they don't include every kid. They just include the kids who reach a certain level and can go on in schools. And those are the ones that we hear about. We know we have problems. We know some of our public schools don't do well. We know where those schools are, and we know something about why they don't do that well, but there are also private schools that don't do very well. There are also charters that are shutting down every day because they don't do very well. So it's, as I said, that's a long way of saying that you can't just say public schools or private schools or charter schools. It's what's going on in the schools. I hope that answered the question. Right.
Great. Along those lines, coming back to what you're doing to support schools, support the people that are working within them, are there any particular projects right now that are happening in the College of Education that you're particularly excited about that you want to let people know about?
I think I talked about some of those. Our early development group is doing wonderful stuff. We are one of few colleges in the country that takes a lot of pride in a lot of what we're doing internationally. And I think over a period of time we're going to get into that more. I think education is becoming more of a global issue. We can learn not only across disciplines, but we can learn across countries. So there will be a lot more of that going on. I think that one of the things that we are going to be increasingly known for is our work with kids with emotional and behavioral problems, as well as on the autism spectrum. We are very, very good in that area. We have conducted some of the best research. We have some people on our faculty and in administration who are among the top names in that area, that applied behavior analytic training that is used with kids with autism. At least one or two of the folks on our faculty are responsible for the development of that type of program. So we will be doing a lot of that also. So we'll be doing those kinds of things, but we will continue to be known as a place that conducts very good research that people can trust, and that takes that research out into the schools, into the clinics, with kids, with parents, with families, to try to change the trajectory of education in this country. We know that diversity is a big question. We know that a lot of our new immigrants and our African American students don't do as well. We've known that for a very long time. We know that there are some cultural issues related to that, but we also know one basic thing, and that is that a human brain learns the same way. It doesn't matter what body that human brain is in. It is a brain, and it learns a certain way, and that's what we're trying to figure out is how to help that brain learn more effectively.
All right. I think that is going to conclude our webinar for the day. So I want to say thank you to everybody that joined us. Thank you for your questions. We really appreciate it. And just want to let you know, at the end of this, you will see a survey pop up. It's 2 or 3 questions. We love to hear from you. We love hearing your feedback. It helps us make these Mountain Talks even better. So please help us by answering that. And another reminder for you, we have another webinar coming up on March 23rd with Professor Angela Brown. She's going to be talking about her research regarding antibiotic resistance. So check that out. The link to that will be coming out next week. So if no other questions are coming in, let me just double check. Yeah, I think we are all set. So thank you very much, Dean Gary Sasso, for joining us today. And thank you all for joining us. We will see you hopefully again on the next Mountain Talk.